Welcome to part 2 of our exploration of the Yelp API. In our last video, we were exploring how to do different types of business searches on Yelp and really getting an understanding of kind of how to take that information that was sent back to us and really just get the core information that we need out of it. We also understood that certain endpoints require different parameters and all that fun jazz. So in this video, we are going to now switch gears from businesses to events. So Yelp actually does have the ability to feature events on their platform. And luckily for us, we can actually get the data that is associated with those events. It's very similar to how we work with the business API. However, there's just a couple things that we have to keep in mind. Couple things, I guess. Gonna lay it out pretty similar to how we did it in the last video. So we'll normally go to the documentation first, read over it a little bit, then we'll actually go through and work with the endpoint. I'll make sure before we actually start to kind of go over the code that you're seeing right now. Obviously, if you were in the last video, you've seen it before, so you know how it works. But again, I'm not going to assume everyone just started on video 1. So the first endpoint that we are going to start with is the events ID one. So we're actually going to look up an individual event on Yelp. So let's jump over to the documentation. Okay. So we're currently on the Yelp Fusion site. This is where all the documentation lives for the Yelp API. We were normally working right here in the business endpoint. Now I want to go to the event endpoint. So I'm going to click that. Lucky for us, this is the first one that pops up. They have a little warning here for you to say, hey, to enable this endpoint, you need to make sure you're part of the Yelp Developer Beta Program. So when you sign up to go get an API key and everything like that, you can specify if you want to be part of the beta program, and then you can access the event endpoint. So this is something new that they added. A little overview of what it does. This endpoint returns the detailed information of a Yelp event. You can get the event ID from the events endpoint or the events featured endpoint. And so this is the endpoint. We simply have to pass through the ID. There is a parameter if we so choose for locale. This specifies how the information is sent back to us. We can actually have it sent back in different languages. And then here, this is all of the information that is sent back to us, so a lot of different attributes. And if we want a more detailed understanding of what those attributes are, we can just look right down here, and it will tell us what the name is, the data type, and the description. So a lot of good information. Let's jump back into Visual Studio. Okay. I'm going to change this. I'm going to go right here. And I'm going to go get an event ID because I already have one. Okay, so the first thing I'm doing is I'm importing some modules. I'm using the request module because we're going to request some information from the API. So we use the request library in order to do that. This second one down here is one that I made. And what it's doing is there is a function in that file that will go and return an API key to me. So like I said in the last video, API keys are something you keep private. You don't share your API keys with people because there can be information associated with it, like credit card information. And then if they start using it, you will be charged. So I love you guys, but I'm not going to show you my API key. So all this function will do is return it to me, but it makes sure that you guys can't see it. And so from here, all I've done is I've defined an event ID. So we're assuming we have one. And then from here, I define a couple key things. So I define my API key, I define the endpoint, and I define the header. Well, my API key, that's the way we authenticate ourselves, so that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to define my endpoint, and so I'm going to take this one and copy it. I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to remove this ID. And so now this is basically like a little placeholder in this string, so I'm going to call the format method. And what do I want to put in that placeholder? I just want to put the event ID. So pretty straightforward. Next, I'm going to define my header. So when I make my request, I can send along some metadata. And this metadata I can use to basically authenticate myself when we encounter the API. And so how we do that is we create a dictionary. we define the key as authorization, and then we pass through our API key. So we pass through bearer, and then we put a little placeholder, and then I populate that placeholder with my API key. So this is how we're going to authenticate ourselves to the API, because they're not going to let just anybody use it. They want to make sure they know who's using it. And so this is how they make sure they know who's using it, because you have an API key. And from here, if we had some parameters that we wanted to pass through, we could, define those parameters right here. Technically with this one, we can define one. We can define our locale. So we could if we wanted to. Now, we don't need to in this example, so I'm just going to leave that blank. And then from here, we're going to make our request using the get method. We're going to pass through the endpoint, which is our URL, and then we're going to pass through our headers, so the metadata that we want to send along with our request. We're going to get something back, and we want to store what we get back somewhere, so I'm going to store it in my variable called response. And now that I have this response basically stored somewhere, right now it's currently a string after we request it. So what I need to do is convert that JSON string into something I can work with in Python. So I'm going to call the JSON method on my response variable, and that will convert it from a JSON string to a Python dictionary. And I want to store that dictionary in another variable, so I'll call it event data. And that's going to equal my response.json. So this is my variable. I'm calling the JSON method, which will convert that JSON string into a Python dictionary. And from here, I just want to print out what I see in my dictionary. So I'm just going to print my event data. So I'm going to run it. And we can see lots of good information. If I want to access a particular attribute from this data, well, all I got to do is just pass through the key, because it's a dictionary now. So maybe I want what do I want? Ticket URL or tickets URL. Okay, so I'll put my key equal to tickets URL. Close off my string, start it again. Perfect, so I get my little URL back. So that's how we access a particular item from our JSON object that we got sent back. Now, because it is a dictionary, technically, we can always call the different dictionary methods. So maybe I want to see all the keys. So this will return all the keys back to me. So these are all the keys. Maybe I just want to see all the values. So without the keys, well, just do the values method. So these are all the values. And if I so choose, I can do an item, which is the key and the value together as a tuple. Oh, sorry, items. Perfect. So it's a tuple with the key and the value. So that is an event lookup. Let's move on to the next one. Let's do an event search. So I'm going to change my endpoint because I'm no longer doing an event lookup. So I can just replace that. And from here, now we got to pass through some parameters. Well, I've already got some parameters populated, but before I bring those ones over, let's actually look at the documentation again. So I'm going to go back to the documentation, and I'm going to go to the event search. And from here, it gives us a little description. So this endpoint returns events based on the provided search criteria. This is our endpoint, and then these are the parameters that we can pass through. And I think all of them are optional. Well, okay. It's kind of hard to, I guess if you wanted to search, you don't have to pass through anything. You might get a lot of information back. I've never actually tried it without any parameters, to be honest. But yeah, so as you can tell, if you've seen the other video, they're all kind of similar. I guess really the only different ones is the sort by, the sort on, and then we have these end date, start date, is free, and then excluded events. So the locale, again, how it's returned back to us and kind of basically what language. the offset. So if we have more than if we have more than 50 events, if we want to access those other events, we have to use the offset parameter to get the next 50 events. We have a limit, so by default it will return 3, but we can have a maximum of 50. And then we can sort by. So sort by either descending or ascending order. By default, it returns results in descending order. Possible values are descending or ascending. I don't know what it's sorting on. I guess you could look here. Huh. Maybe it's the business ID. Yeah, I think maybe it's the business ID. I'm not entirely sure. That's something they probably should put in there. And then we can sort on. Oh, wait, no. Stupid. Sort on. So you can sort on popularity or time start. And then naturally, this one will feed into the descending or ascending one. So that's how that one's working. My bad. And then we can specify a start date or an end date. So again, this is using a Unix timestamp. And so again, this is just a different way of representing a time, as an integer. And so this is the range that we can possibly put it through if we so choose. We can pass through a category. So the category filter can be a list of common delimited categories to get order results that include categories provided. See the list of categories. I'll just open this one up. So these are the event list categories. So you could do music, visual arts, film, lectures, a lot of stuff. A lot smaller than the other ones. So the business categories, my God, it's like, I want to say 200 or 300. It's pretty ridiculous. We can pass is free, so a Boolean value. We can do a location. So again, like a city, a state, or a combination of it. Latitude, longitude, radius. So again, we define our location, how far out do you want to look? And then we can pass through excluded events. So maybe we already have events in our database. We don't want those ones, so we could just pass through a list of those ones, and then it won't return those ones back. So very straightforward. And then we'll get all this information back to us. So let's jump back into Visual Studio. I'm going to go get my parameters. Believe. Is it this one? Yeah. Okay, so these are my parameters. So right now, I'm just putting in location. If you wanted to, you could technically put all of this stuff. Oh, well, technically not that one. That is supposed to be something like music. So again, this potentially could be all the different information that you wanted to put in there if you so choose. And so if I run this, let's see what we get. Kind of curious. I've never really used the event API before, to be honest. Oh, actually I have to make sure I put in my parameters. Parameters, and then put my comma. Should be good to go. But I mean, it's nice to know, I guess it's there. So as we can tell, we got a lot of information actually sent back to us. So obviously there is a list of events. There was a total of 3. So if I wanted to, I could maybe put in another parameter, limit. And then with this one, I maybe want 50 back, if there is even 50. Bam. Okay, wow, we actually got 50 back. Okay. So apparently San Diego has a lot of events. Never would have guessed. And then if we wanted to, access this information, let's first take a look at the keys, just so that way we know kind of what we're working with. Or we could just refer back to the documentation, but why not do this? Okay, so we get events in total. So if I wanted to, I could get my events by passing through that key. And then from here, I'm going to do a loop. So I'm going to say for event in events.data, print the event.keys, just to see what we get back. Perfect. So is canceled, is free. Let's do is free. I want to see how many free events we have in San Diego. Kind of curious, to be honest. Oh, it's actually a lot. So yeah, it returned back the Boolean value. So if it's true, it's free. And I'd say that's actually a pretty decent amount, to be honest. So that's how we do an event search. We have another endpoint we can use, featured events. Let's go back to the documentation and read that one. Okay, so we got a featured event. Okay, so this endpoint returns the featured event for a given location. Featured events are chosen by Yelp community managers. Okay, so I believe, don't take my word on it 100%, but I think that is basically going on right now, if I remember correctly. I have to double check that one, but it's kind of arbitrary of which ones would be returned back, because I've done this before and it doesn't return back anything. So that's kind of the part where I'm like, wait a minute, like I'm assuming, I guess, if one is either not going on or no one puts it in there, then we don't have a list to pull from. So again, we're going to do it just to show you how it works, but just keep in mind, don't be surprised if you actually don't get anything back, because I think there's some kind of feature that's actually determined. Again, we're just going to pass through the location. And then we're going to close off my dictionary. And then let's just print and see what we get. Okay. I'm going to remove that space. Perfect. And then let's run it again. Okay, so we don't get anything back. I guess that's just kind of more on Yelp side, because technically this is a parameter, and so we put in the required parameter. So I'm assuming either there are no events going on, or there are no events that was put in there by a Yelp community manager. So I guess that's something that is more externally populated. So that's, maybe you're lucky, maybe in your location it actually works, but I guess in San Diego, not so much. But yeah, so that does it for today's video. If you have any questions about the event endpoints, please put them down in the comments below, and I'll make sure to get back to you. Also, if you could make sure to like the video, it always helps when you guys support out, and it gives us, good direction on kind of which direction we should be going with the videos and stuff like that. So we always appreciate it, and we always appreciate the support. Also, if you're not already, make sure to subscribe to the channel so that way you get regular updates as we release new videos. We're going to start covering a lot of APIs, so you definitely want to stay on top of kind of what we're throwing out there and which ones we're covering. In our final video for the Yelp API, we're going to now kind of go over the last remaining endpoints. These are more things like autocomplete, transaction search, so very specific ones, but again, we just want to know they're around and how to use them. So we will see you in the next video. Thanks again, guys.